It's officially recruiting season. We got big decommitments, flips. Texas has a huge visit weekend coming. 5-star Desmond Ricks is in Gainesville, and I'm bringing on my guy, Director of Recruiting for On3, Chad Simmons, to talk all about it. Chad, before we get into all the stuff I mentioned on the intro, I want to talk to you about 5-star quarterback Dante Moore. There's just been rumors swirling. I've tried to ignore it. I've tried to let it go. But then he scrubbed his socials. He took off all the mentions of Oregon being committed there and all his photos. Probably put it back up by now. But it got me thinking, I got to check in with my guy, Chad. Chad, 5-star quarterback Dante Moore, who's committed to Oregon. What's going on with him?
I mean, Josh, we know it's wild times, man. When the NIL's in play, it's a factor, and I think Michigan State is somewhat of a factor for Dante Moore. They want to be more of a factor for Dante Moore, being he's a Detroit kid, an elite quarterback in their backyard. Mel Tucker obviously struggling this year, would love to bring on a face of the program like a quarterback, hometown kid, Dante Moore. But right now, I still feel like it's a very, very steep uphill battle for them to take him away from Oregon. Now, with that said, anything's possible in today's recruiting world. Things happen and change quickly. But I think right now, barring a major change, even like a coaching change at Oregon, if his guy Kenny Dillingham, who's been a hot OC name this year, if he was to get a head coaching job somewhere, that definitely cracks that door that much bigger for Tucker and Michigan State to try to swoop in and steal this one. But right now, everything points, at least on my end today, right now as we record this, that Oregon's still in a good position to hang on to Dante Moore.
Yeah, and I agree. If Kenny's there, then I think everything stays solid with Dante. But is there another team out there besides Michigan State that's still courting Dante Moore?
I mean, they're the hot team. I think most schools. I mean, A&M would love to come back. They're still missing that quarterback in this class, and I think they would love to swoop back in as well. But Michigan State is the one that seems to at least have him engaged somewhat, at least listening what they have to say. And being, again, one time he was maybe a Michigan lean, and obviously it's an in-state program. He visited, East Lansing numerous times early on, has some relationships there. So that's the team I'm hearing about. If a change was made at Oregon, Dillingham moving on, I think you'd see numerous schools try to jump back in.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of interesting to watch how the quarterback position plays out. We're still kind of new into this NIL era, and you would think that when these quarterbacks make their early decisions, it kind of locks them in. But I'm getting the feeling that maybe some of these quarterbacks might still be looking around nationally. What do you think?
Oh, I think 100%. There's more than just Dante Moore behind the scenes, at least listening. I don't even want to say listening to other offers, but that's kind of what it is. In today's world, NIL, who can set me up the best for my future? And that's what it comes down to.
Hey, opportunities are opportunities. It's still recruiting. So let's head to Texas. One of the guys that you've been all over is Arizona 5-star tight end Duce Robinson, the number 1 tight end in the nation, taking a visit to Texas this weekend. Now, you've been mentioning that Georgia and USC are kind of the primary teams in this. Texas is a hot team on the recruiting trail right now. Do they have a shot with this trip to get into his recruitment?
They're definitely in the mix, Josh. I mean, I was actually at this game with Sark, was there, and Banks were there at this game on a Thursday night at Pinnacle High School in Phoenix, Arizona. And he's got family in Texas. He's been there before. He communicates with Arch Manning. They're having a good season. They're showing that improvement in year 2, which I think was big for all these recruits watching Sark in his second year in Austin. So, yes, they are in the mix. They do have a chance. But heading into the weekend, I do see them running at least third in this race behind who I think Georgia's trending right now with USC. Expected to be in this race until the very end as well. So Texas has some ground to make up. They have to show him that plan. They do have a couple of tight ends committed in this class, but so does Georgia. So I think Duce kind of bets on himself. He knows he can play with anybody. He's a different type of tight end. He can flex out and play a lot of wide receiver as well. So I think this weekend is big for both Texas and Duce, and seeing how they come out of that will kind of place Texas where they're at moving forward as far as we move forward through the recruiting process.
How far away from a decision are we with Duce?
He still says February. I don't know if schools will let him get that far. I think schools will push him to sign early. But like he says, why rush? Why do it early when I'm going to stay anyway and play baseball in the spring? I'm not enrolling early. Why not just enjoy it? Take the officials, do the in-home visits in January, and then sign in February. So going off what Deuce says right now, we're still a ways away.
Well, we'll see what he does. I think he might be the only 5-star that waits till February, but we'll see how it plays out with him.
I'll say keep
Speaking
an
of,
eye on Nicholas Harbor. Keep an eye on Harbor with that also. Could be two.
yep,
You know.
yep. And you were just talking to Nicholas Harbor last week. Let's talk about 5-star Desmond Ricks. The cornerback will be in Gainesville this weekend. He was at LSU last weekend. He's got his official set up. He's taken so many trips. What is Desmond Ricks looking for on some of these visits?
Man, how fast has this all changed? Just a month ago, we're thinking Dez is the number one corner in 2024. Then he goes and reclassifies. He tells me he will not be able to enroll early, so he'll sign in February, go to school through next spring, enroll in June. Then a week later, he not only reclassifies, but now he can sign early and enroll early. So things have completely accelerated for him in a way maybe we haven't seen before in some time. In just a couple weeks' time, now he'll be signing and enrolling in late December, early January. Florida will have him on campus this weekend. He was at LSU last weekend. He takes his OV to Alabama for the Iron Bowl against Auburn at the end of the month. I think this weekend is big for Florida because everyone I talk to, every source I have feels they're definitely running third. They feel most people feel that LSU is on top, likely the team to beat as we move into mid-November. So getting him back on campus this weekend is a huge opportunity for Florida to kind of showcase how he can fit in, get some time with Corey Raymond, Billy Napier, that staff in Florida. His family won't be with him. They were with him in Baton Rouge. They're going to lay back at home this weekend, take a weekend off to rest and kind of prepare for that busy December. But Florida has the opportunity to make a move this weekend.
A lot of times when the parents don't come, it sometimes shows that maybe the recruit isn't all that serious. But if his parents make it on the official visit, I don't see the concern. Are you expecting his parents to be with him on his official visit to Florida?
Yes, I'd be surprised if they're not there, Josh. I mean, that's a close-knit family. They moved from Virginia to 30 minutes away from IMG to be closer to Dez as he went through this journey at IMG Academy after transferring down. So I think they will be with him on those three officials. I mean, they're going to be obviously crucial in a big decision for him, and they'll be there to support him.
All right. Well, I still think it's LSU heading into this weekend, but I'm eager to see what you have to say on Monday regarding this visit and where UF stands, see if they can make up some ground. Last guy I want to talk to you about is one of the more intriguing prospects in the 2023 class. 4-star linebacker Arion Carter, the Tennessee product, has skyrocketed up recruiting boards. He committed to Memphis early on, didn't have a whole lot of offers. All of a sudden, USC, Alabama, Miami, you name it, they were all over Arion Carter. Well, this weekend, he is going to be at Ohio State for an official visit. It sounded like the teams in the South kind of had the edge, but what do you make of the Buckeyes getting Arion Carter on campus this weekend?
That they'll get their shot to take a swing. I do think that he is leaning towards staying in the SEC with Alabama and Tennessee. It's pretty much down to Alabama, Tennessee, Ohio State, and Michigan. LSU still trying to see if they can work to get him on campus in December. That's not likely at this time, but him getting out of Tennessee, heading up north to Columbus, obviously to play Indiana, it's not a huge game, but I think he'll still be blown away by just the atmosphere at Ohio State, the fan base, the pageantry, the band. They really lay it out there and really showcase what they have to offer as a program. But I think it's going to be a difficult, move for Ohio State to kind of get in there and compete with Bama and Tennessee. Just being local in the South, he knows a lot more about those programs. He goes to kind of into this visit kind of blind, I would say, about Ohio State. So they'll have the opportunity to kind of wow him and his family as well. They have a lot of ground, I think, to make up to compete coming out of this trip with Alabama and Tennessee.
All right, Chad. Great job this week on the Inside Scoop. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
See ya. We are back on the Inside Scoop from inside Texas. I got Jerry Hamilton joining the show. Jerry, it has been a busy week for Texas. Colton Vasek flipped earlier this week, the 4-star edge rusher, and now they got Anthony Hill, 5-star plus linebacker who is fresh off of a decommitment from Texas A&M, coming on campus this weekend. Major position of need for Texas. How are you feeling heading into this visit?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, Anthony picked A&M over Texas when he committed to the Aggies initially. And, you know, all the intel I've received from this recruitment for almost a year now was that Anthony would stay close to home. Well, right now, Texas is in a good spot headed into the visit. I don't think there's any doubt about it. There's not anything anybody else could say differently. But he does plan to go up and see Ohio State possibly. So could a school far from home actually come into the picture and become serious in the race for Anthony Hill? We'll see. He says he's going to take his decision to National Signing Day in December, which is December 21st. We'll see if that actually transpires. He's an early enrollee. So we'll see. But I think Texas – look, here's the thing that Texas fans have to know about this recruitment. Even though he committed to A&M, the communication with Texas never stopped. It never really slowed down after a couple of weeks after his initial commitment. So that communication with Anthony and the family has continued throughout this process. So I think the day he committed on Monday caught everybody off guard, and that includes A&M, that includes Texas. I think the timing of it was unexpected. Obviously, we had been hearing some chatter that he was going to step foot on campus in Austin probably for that TCU game if the playoff schedule allowed for it. But I think the timing of the decommitment was interesting. It caught everybody off guard. And so that's made everybody come to the conclusion he'll end up at Texas. We'll see where it heads.
Now, Colton Vasek made a quick decision. I mean, he decommitted and committed all in the same day. Do you think that there's a chance that Texas could lock down Anthony Hill this weekend, or do you see it definitely going on further from here?
Yeah, I think it'll take a little while to play out. I mean, look, we're in the NIL day and age, right? So it's hard to pin it down for sure, but I do think this one will take a little bit longer to play out. I don't think he's going to decommit and then make a quick commitment. I just don't see that with Anthony Hill's recruitment. Vasek this has been ongoing for a while. Look, Colton Vasek, while he committed to Oklahoma, he was at the Texas-Alabama game. Then obviously people have seen the quotes. He went to the Red River rivalry in Oklahoma here. But then the big one for me was and I said this on Inside Texas. I told all the subscribers, if Colton Vasek shows up for a second Texas game, you'll know it's serious. And he showed up for the Texas-Iowa State game when Arch Manning, John Cook, Malik Muhammad, all those guys were in town. So at that point, it felt like a matter of time with Vasek. The question was he going to commit before the playoffs or wait until after the playoffs? So he went ahead and got it out of the way before the playoffs, another early enrollee, which is big news for Texas. But that was a huge flip for the Longhorns. But to answer your question, I think Anthony Hill will probably take a little longer to play out.
Okay. Another 5-star on campus this weekend is safety Peyton Bowen. Bowen is committed to Notre Dame, has been really since August, and he's looking around. He's even said that he's going to make a, quote, final decision. So that being said, Bowen's going to be at Texas this weekend. Where do you think the Longhorns stand heading into this trip?
I think Texas, this is what would be a recruitment that I'd be surprised if Texas wins. Look, he wasn't giving Texas the time of day for months and months since a visit last spring, I believe, or summer, even before that. He's been on flip watch for a while. He's, when the flipper stick, we're going with the flip on this one, right? And it has been that way for a while since my visit to Denton Guy early in the season. But it's been Oklahoma and A&M. Obviously, his girlfriend signed to play soccer at Oklahoma, so people just assume he's going to end up at Oklahoma. I'm not sure that's the case. A&M's season, they've lost a lot of momentum, obviously. Anthony Hill decommits, David Hicks, who I'm sure we'll talk about. I don't think he ends up signing with A&M as of today. So we'll see where Peyton Bowen goes. Look, Texas offered his little brother Eli a couple weeks ago. He's a 2024 corner. Texas A&M turned around and offered Eli 2 days ago. So that battle's ongoing to see who can keep him closer to home. I think the mom prefers closer to home. We'll see which school that is. Texas has a long way to go and a lot of ground to make up on this one.
All right. Well, there's a few things in recruiting that are undefeated, so we'll see how this one plays out. 5-star plus Texas A&M commitment David Hicks was maybe going to be on campus. Doesn't look like he's going to be here this weekend. But do you think Texas has a shot at David Hicks still?
This is another one that's been a long shot. Now the communication with Hicks, even when he committed to Texas A&M, it's never really slowed down with Texas. I mean, he's always been in contact with Texas defensive line coach Bo Davis, his father as well. His father's had a relationship with Bo Davis for a while. David Hicks is going to go to Oregon this weekend. Look, he's already been there twice, official and unofficial visit. Now he's going back for another official visit. I believe he's going with his teammate Damian Sanford, who's a linebacker commit to Texas A&M. So Texas A&M's on double flip watch. And Oklahoma offered Sanford last week. So I think right now Hicks is more Oregon and Oklahoma. He has an Oklahoma official visit November 19th. But I think this wasn't a good sign for Texas. He's already been to Oregon twice. And the fact that he's going up there this weekend instead of making the unofficial visit to Texas on the TCU weekend when so many other top players are going to be on campus, it tells you Texas continues to be a long shot there. I don't think Texas will give up. Though we talk about on Inside Texas all the time, this staff recruits through the whistle. And I've said that since Sark was hired, since this 2022 class last year took form. They don't back off of their top targets. They're not going to plan Bs. So they will continue to fight for David Hicks and try to get him on campus leading into that decision around December 21st, another early enrollee.
Another one of the top targets or top commitments on Texas's board is 5-star running back Cedric Baxter out of Florida. Last month, Cedric Baxter showed up at Florida State, kind of home visit, but as a sophomore, he was committed to Florida State. So you kind of look at it and say, well, is something going on there? Then Mike Norvell takes a helicopter to one of his practices the very next week. And then Cedric Baxter follows it up with an official visit to Florida State. So that being said, is there concern for Texas over losing Cedric Baxter to an in-state program like FSU?
I think Texas feels good about it because of the relationship with Tashard Choice and Baxter. And look, that's the reason Baxter committed to Texas in the first place. Yes, Bijan Robinson's going pro. Roschon Johnson's is off to the NFL, and Steve Sarkisian has a great and inviting offense for a back, right? I mean, you can't question that. You get to run it, you get to catch it, you pass pro. It's a real developmental for the NFL running back position under Sarkisian. But it's really Tashard Choice. That relationship dates back to Georgia Tech. I mean, from the Texas side, I think they remain very confident. Now, look, here's my take on Cedric Baxter's recruitment. And Josh, you know this covering the state of Florida for years. The number one running back in the country is in Orlando, Florida. Florida State, Florida, Miami, they're not going to let that guy walk to Texas. And in fact, if they stop recruiting him, they should all be fired. That's fireable offense. You don't let Cedric Baxter walk away without putting up the best fight you possibly can. And when he initially committed to Texas, Florida State wasn't in that final group. It was Florida, Miami, Ohio State, and Texas A&M, I believe is what it was. But as you pointed out, he was committed to Florida State. He grew up a Florida State fan. I mean, and anybody that's followed this recruitment knows that. And so it's not a surprise that Florida State's the one making the biggest run and really trying to pull on those heartstrings of Baxter. But I think as long as Tashard Choice and him have a great relationship in none of the visits, whether the Florida game early for the Utah or the Florida State visits, they haven't caught Texas off guard. He's been up front with Tashard Choice the whole way through in this recruitment. So as long as that relationship's strong, I think Texas will be okay. But again, Florida State has to recruit through the whistle on this guy. This is not top back in the country in Orlando that grew up a Florida State fan. If you back off, pack your bags.
Yeah. And the in-state schools are getting their butts kicked on the recruiting trail, especially at the running back position. Look, Cedric Baxter, Texas. Richard Young going to Alabama. Mark Fletcher going to Ohio State. So I think you're right. The Sharks are going to continue to circle until Cedric Baxter puts pen to paper and signs with Texas. So we'll see what happens there.
And he's an early enrollee, so this will be a December 21st signing, and then he's off to college. So this is not one that's going to February.
Right. All right. Jerry, Texas is ranked number 6 overall right now in the recruiting rankings. What is left on the board? Do you see them finishing with a top 5 class, potentially a top 3 class? Who's out there that could push for those numbers?
I think there's 2 caveats to that. The first one, Texas has a huge opportunity this weekend with TCU coming to town. Ranked number 4, College game day. is back in Austin. And not many times you get two chances. Texas fell 1 point short against Alabama. That was almost like a moral recruiting victory on Twitter and social media and everything. Then they stumbled their toe at Tech, at Oklahoma State, even though they had a big win against Oklahoma. Now they have a little momentum, beating Kansas State on the road. That was Sark's first big road win at Texas against a quality opponent. Now TCU comes to town 9-0 in the college football playoff hunt. And the visitors list is off the charts. Javian Toviano is one of those guys we need to talk about. Look, it looks like Toviano's headed to LSU.
Yeah.
But it's always going to be a close-to-home type of recruitment. So it looks like it's LSU and now Texas, which he hadn't been on campus for a while, but he's been in communication with Sarkisian the whole way through. So Toviano, DeAndre Moore, the Louisville commitment, on-3 consensus 4-star wide receiver, was at Georgia last weekend. He makes his official visit to Texas this weekend. Jacoby Lane, USC wide receiver commit, is scheduled to make an official visit to Texas this weekend. Jaden Greathouse, Notre Dame commitment, on-3 consensus 4-star wide receiver, is going to be makes the short drive, the 8-mile drive to Austin or the University of Texas from Westlake for the game Saturday. Texas has a lot of guys still on the board. We talked about Anthony Hill. They got to keep fighting off people. Cedric Baxter, Derek Williams, the safety out of Westgate. LSU's not giving up there. So Texas has to hold serve, but then they have some big guys left at the receiver position, defensive line. They just offered Roderick Pierce, the Wisconsin commitment up in Chicago. Texas really likes his senior film. He's working on setting up a visit. Then there's Justin Benton, the West Virginia commit, the defensive lineman that visited Arkansas last weekend. He's out of Newton, Georgia. Looks like he may visit Texas the first weekend in December. So defensive line, linebacker, the edge position and wide receiver position are still real positions of need. But here's the thing that we've been saying on Inside Texas, Josh. It's the recruiting class probably ends up ranked 4 or 5. If they beat TCU, they're going to have a ton of momentum at that point. But the portal's going to be huge for Texas. They're going after some positions in need in the portal. So I don't think they're going to max out this high school class like we originally thought. I think they're going for guys they think are NFL players in the high school ranks, or they're going to go to the portal to fill the need.
All right. Well, Jerry, huge weekend for Texas. Yeah. Inside Texas, we'll have you plugged in all weekend. Thank you, Jerry. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it, Josh.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.